Okay, guys, today we are going to talk about the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles book by Jason Aaron. This is Mike at Mike's Total Dragon channel, and I wanted to talk about the initial 4 issues of Aaron's new Ninja Turtle book, which spins out of the events of the previous IDW Turtles book, which I believe ran for, was it 150 issues? Something like that. Ran for quite a while. If it's not 150, maybe it's 200. Ran for quite a while. I was not very familiar with it. Towards the end, I read probably maybe the first 30 or 40 issues or something like that, and then kind of fell out. And when I saw Jason Aaron's name was attached to this, I decided to go ahead and jump in. I'm really familiar with him from his work at Marvel, his DC Vertigo book, Scout, which is one of my top all-time favorite books. But I saw that he was on it, and I figured I would give it a shot. We'll talk about the first 4 of these issues because each one is dedicated to a specific turtle. So this book is a lot like in the vein of the previous series. It's definitely not Cowabunga dudes, totally tubular, the turtles that most of us know from our childhood, or at least me, if you're, someone who grew up when the turtles were super popular. This is not them. This is kind of like the new mythology of them. The tone of the characters is, I'm not going to say grim and gritty, but it is a little more dark and mature without being, kind of disgusting. The characters, Turtles, Casey, April, Shredder, etc., everyone is handled very respectfully, which is a big thing with me. I don't mind modern takes on classic properties as long as you handle them respectfully. And I know someone is going to say, well, they're just a bunch of fucking turtles. How does it matter? Well, it does matter because you don't want to deviate so far from what the turtles are that, it turns into like a parody or something. And yes, I'm quite aware that the original black and white Eastman and Laird turtles were very violent and they killed Shredder in their very first appearance. But, they kind of have taken on a little bit of their own life since then, and they, a little bit more depth to the characters and the mythology and the universe that they inhabit now. And IDW has really done what is probably going to be considered the most defining run. It's definitely the longest tenured, or the longest amount of issues ran. I know Turtles, when they were with Mirage, the shipping schedule was all over the place. It was very erratic. There was a lot of delays between issues. Eastman and Laird were not on it for certain spells. And then you've got the Archie Comics run, which that's a lot closer to what we saw in the Saturday morning cartoons and the video games. But I feel like the IDW version strikes a really good balance between the two, of keeping things, honoring honoring a little bit of the Cowabunga dudes with the fact that there's a bunch of different mutant characters, and also at the same time having a little bit of the not darkness really, but the mature storytelling and kind of the themes that were in the initial Eastman and Laird stuff. So we'll go ahead and crack issue 1 open right here. We see Raphael's out front, so he is the star of this first issue. So, Return to New York, Teenage Mutant Ninja inmate, Jason Aaron, Joelle Jones. She does the art on this particular issue. Each issue has a different artist. This one opens up with Raphael in jail. So we see a lot of him being in jail and just being very, introspective, I guess the word is. He's doing a lot of internal monologue, talking about his situation here, being in jail. Has a flashback of happier days with him and his brothers. So one of the things that is touched upon in this issue, but is not really answered 100%, is Raphael seems to have some sort of deal with the warden here. Like as the warden mentions, no one else knows why you're here, not even the guards, because I still don't know who I can trust. You're here to... So he brings Raphael in basically to help pare down the corruption inside of his prison, which I feel like that's a really strange choice, to bring a Ninja Turtle into your prison to help with the corruption or whatever. But the warden also alludes to the fact here, when you've done that to my satisfaction, I'll see if I can pull enough strings to make the troubles of yours disappear. I heard one of those four men is finally able to walk again. So that's the guys that Raphael put the beat down on up here in this panel. So the warden, and long story short, the warden and Raphael basically have some sort of you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours deal. Raphael sees the murdered guard here, heads to the roof, and of course we wouldn't have a Ninja Turtles comic unless we had ninjas. So he encounters them. They throw down. Really great action. 2-page spread right here. Raphael comes back to find the warden. He's been stabbed with his weapon of choice, the size. And the other thing that does not work is because, so Raphael mentions right here, all the evidence of our deal is now gone. So and since this was essentially just like a handshake type deal, just between these two, I scratch my back, I scratch yours. With him dead, Raphael is now just a regular run-of-the-mill prisoner. So now he heads out, and he heads out on the lam. He's escaped jail. And then we cut kind of like to the last page right here, this little epilogue. We have these guys talking. District Attorney meets with another guy. Probably future mayor. Vote hell. He's got the button on right here. Future DA gets thrown off the bridge. New York, you tell the Foot Clan, New York City is ours. So that is kind of like a little mysterious end of the first issue. And that issue focused on Raphael. Up next, we got this issue, which Michelangelo takes the center spot here. And I thought this was out of the four, this was probably my favorite issue because it's super fun. Raphael Albuquerque does the art on this issue. And basically the gist of this one is Michelangelo is in Japan, and he is the star of a action television show. So we see him in Japan being really popular, hobnobbing. You know, his show's taken off. He's been like a hit, you know, a breakout actor. But secretly, he finds himself in his monologue thinking about his brothers, better times. So he's at his hotel. Looks like he's OD'd on pizza right here. I guess, or maybe you'd call that OP'd, over pizzaed. He gets jumped and attacked by the Foot Clan. He springs into action, but the nunchucks he's using were just props. So all he has the fake ones. This one issue here, in addition to having some cool action, Michelangelo has a lot of really good internal monologue. One of the things that I enjoyed most about it is he talks about using the nunchucks and what it takes to become proficient in them, because it is a weapon that frequently ends up hitting you in the face, hitting you in the leg, smacking you in the crotch until you master it. So it's a weapon that you have to take a beating to get proficient in. So I kind of enjoyed him talking about the nunchucks and everything that comes in to using them. So now he's just finally, he has a real weapon. He's beating down these ninja. And then Michelangelo runs into Raphael. So we see Raphael has escaped from he escaped from New York City, the jail, halfway around the world, finds Michelangelo in Tokyo. And then this issue kind of leaves, this issue here ends with them having kind of like a face-off. But nothing is kind of more of a dynamic picture than what becomes of it. But I really enjoyed this issue out of the 4 because Michelangelo, he is probably the best of the Ninja Turtles. Now, personally, my favorite is Leonardo, who takes the stage right here on issue 3. Leonardo is probably my favorite because I've always enjoyed the leader character. But Michelangelo, without him to be lighthearted and wisecracking, the whole concept of human-sized turtles who are proficient in ninjutsu can get a little overwhelming and can get way too serious. So Michelangelo brings the correct amount of levity to it that allows the property to not take itself very serious. So this is issue 3, written by Jason Aaron, Cliff Chang, great underrated artist right here. He does the art on this one. And then we see Leonardo. This whole issue here is basically Leonardo has traveled after everything that had happened before in the previous volume. He says here 9 months earlier. So Leonardo has traveled here to, I want to say this is in India somewhere. Basically, a typical Leonardo thing, travel, because he's the one that's closest to the spirituality of what is it, Clan Hamato, or whatever Splinter's clan is. He's the one who most closely honors the teachings and follows the practices of it the most. So he's here basically on kind of like a retreat to meditate. And he runs across a handful of like turtles. While he's out here in the woods, he comes across some poachers, and the whole time, it's typical Leonardo. He's reminiscing, seeking something inside of himself, trying to find a peace and a tranquility that he had lost. Then, of course, we all know how that's going to turn out. Foot Clan shows up and interrupts. So he has to dig his weapons out. Just a great scene right here of all the laser scopes dialed in on him. He takes his swords out. Pops his sword out right here. And then in this next page, 4 minutes and 30 seconds later. So it went from this to this. We don't even see it, which goes to show you, which is a really cool way of showing how deadly Leonardo is with his swords. We've got a scene right here of this plane having crashed, the helicopter having crashed. Leonardo commandeers this one that had showed up. Autopilot engaged. State mission status. Objective achieved. Proceed to next target. Understood. Proceed to Tokyo, Japan, which is where Michelangelo and Raphael is. And so that kind of picks up where the last issue left off. We've got kind of Michelangelo and Raphael having a brother's quarrel while ninjas show up. Then the helicopter crashes into the apartment. Leonardo emerges. So we got 3 down, 1 to go. So our next issue is going to be strictly about Donatello. As we see from this preview right here for the cover, Donatello looks like he's incarcerated with a small mouse in his hand. Now this issue right here is the last one. Chris Burnham does the art on this. Jason Aaron, still the writer. This issue is kind of a very dark issue. As you can see by the title of it, Grit and a Stick. So this basically here has Donatello. He stumbles across a truckload of mutant animals who have been imprisoned, and he takes it upon himself to free them, and he ends up becoming captured. Now, as you'll see from this picture here, Donatello is incredibly thin, and so we can tell he's been on the road. He has not been taking care of himself, and he has been captured, and he is now basically in some sort of gladiatorial fighting pit. People pay somebody money, they get a chance to fight a mutant for a while. Donatello dispatches his people, the ones that try and challenge him. And one of the things he talks about here is he always wants to be the one to fight because he is the more accomplished of the fighters out of everyone that is imprisoned. And the more people that he can fight, the less the prisoners have to do their own fighting. But a lot of this issue here is discussing Donatello and the trauma he's had to process over the past couple of months. The stress that he's put himself under, as you can see, he kind of has bitten off more than he can chew with this page right here. Instead of it just being one person, everyone that he's beat up on now comes and wants their shot at Donatello. Look at, he's so thin and he's wasted away so much. So we have Donatello right here. He's now basically fighting every single person here. And because he's the smartest out of all the brothers, He's got his own escape plan he's worked out in his head. You know, pulling up the computer, pulling up the schematics on what's what. So ninjas have taken or have now showed up and are now wreaking havoc. But this is a great scene right here. And as we see, with nothing but grit and a stick, the turtle who fights no matter the odds with nothing but grit and a stick. That's Donatello. But this issue here, I think, out of all of them, probably the bleakest. Donatello is not really in a good place, per se, mentally. He's got a rat on his shoulder. He thinks his master Splinter. That rat is dead. It's got a ninja star stuck in it. He looks utterly deranged right here. And so his brothers are just kind of like, yeah, things just like old times, huh? And meanwhile, we cut back to New York City. We have this guy here who's going to be the new mayor. He tends to have a whole bunch of people here in his office. We see that they're ninjas, and he's put out the wanted on all four of the Turtle Brothers. This is the next issue right here, issue 5. I really enjoy this cover. I'm looking forward to picking this one up. But this is issue 4, and I think it's a really powerful issue. You know, it deals with a lot of things like processing grief and trauma. So it's kind of a more somber issue out of the previous 4. But that is the new IDW Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, issue 1 through 4. Highly recommend it. If you've read Last Ronin, it's got a very similar vibe to that. You know, the turtles striking out against someone who's targeted them. So, you know, if you haven't read Last Ronin, I highly recommend it. It's basically Dark Knight Returns, but with Ninja Turtles. So it was kind of the book of, I want to say maybe it was 2019, I think it was. It was probably the most popular book for that year, during that COVID year. But if you go to your local comic book shop, chances are you'll still be able to find all 4 of these on the shelf. Pick them up. If you're a fan of the Turtles, I think you'll enjoy it. And also, even though it's a brand new #1 and it touches upon previous story elements, you won't feel overwhelmed. So that's a sign of good writing by Jason Aaron right there. So until next time, you guys take care. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.